So for anyone who hasn't logged on to twitter.com in the past few days, the YouTuber CallMeCarson was involved in a controversy where him and Sam, who goes by the name miniborb on the bird site, were involved in a relationship that developed to the point where they exchanged nudes. According to her, their relationship started after she tweeted at Carson asking him to be her boyfriend. Their relationship developed with Carson making continuous references to sexual activities and just being horny in general. And while the timeline is unclear, at some point they exchanged nudes, and that's where things get spicy. At this point, Sam was 17, while Carson was 19, and while we can delve into the morality of it later, the nude exchange was illegal. Having done something illegal, Carson came to his friends, the lunch club, and confessed back in March of 2020. This brings us to the situation now. On January 4th, my boy Keemstar dropped a video with an interview of the lunch club members, Travis and Noah, bringing the entire situation to the public eye. While the legitimacy and truthfulness of the whole situation is not up to debate, as there's quite irrefutable evidence that this did indeed happen, there are dozens of screenshots and videos confirming that it did, including Carson admitting it himself in a video surfaced by Joko. What is truly brought into question is the discourse happening around it. The entire situation blew up with a slew of memes coming about, as the seemingly loved figure of the YouTube community turned out to just be another child groomer. A very similar thing just happened to another commentary YouTuber, Cynical, but he came out largely unscathed as the circumstances were slightly different and he didn't want nudes since they wouldn't involve fat furry women. But the start of the situation is very similar, with both Pyro and Carson being young adults getting involved in sexual conversations with minors. I'm not saying it's the same situation with the same outcome. I doubt Carson can just make an apology to get out of this one, like Pyro did. But the headlines are very similar. Big YouTuber grooms minor. Funnily enough, both situations frame grooming, with neither situation being textbook grooming. This was very evident in the Pyro drama, but it's a little less clear in the Carson situation, as it did seem like Carson wanted to meet her. Now let's get to the meat of the discussion. First, let's clear the easy stuff. No, Carson's not a pedophile. Even Sam admitted to that. The word gets thrown around a lot in discussions involving relationships between adults and minors, but the definition of pedophilia itself is a psychosexual disorder generally affecting adults characterized by a sexual interest in prepubescent children or attempts to engage in sexual acts with prepubescent children. Basically, a sicko wanting to fuck a child. While Carson did seem to want to fuck her, she wasn't 12 and he was barely out of his teenage years himself, so no, not pedophilia. This is where the age gap comes in. While age gaps in relationships are subjective, they're largely judged relative to the age of the people involved. An age gap of 10 years is not that weird between an 80-year-old woman and a 90-year-old man, but a 20-year-old dude trying to fuck a 10-year-old is weird and just straight up wrong. The age gap between the two is 2 years, and while he was a legal adult at age 19 and she was a minor, the age gap doesn't seem to be a problem, as when we bring the ages down to 17 and 15, it doesn't seem that weird or wrong. Imagine in high school and you're a senior and your friend starts hitting on a sophomore. You might call him weird, but you're not going to call him a pedo and cut ties with him, right? This brings into perspective a bigger issue. He broke the law. I sound like the fucking Burger King foot lettuce guy. This brings into perspective a bigger issue. He broke the law. While there's a lot of debate on whether their entire relationship was illegal, the nudes definitely were. And I saw a lot of people using that argument. Under U.S. law, which is in jurisdiction in this case, child pornography is defined as any visual depiction of sexually explicit conduct involving a minor, with a minor being someone under 18 years of age. So in a legal court, Carson would be guilty of possession of child porn. So, Carson would be guilty of a crime and he's scum. He deserves to be canceled. Well, this is where things get tricky, because if you want to be technical, Sam wouldn't come off guilt-free either, as she would be charged with the creation and distribution of child porn. Whether or not she is guilty, or if she was manipulated into it, would only be decided in an actual court case. But that's not my point. My point is that the law is not nuanced, and just calling something illegal as the conclusion to a discussion about someone else's actions is flawed. The American psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg first came up with this theory for moral development in 1984 by studying how children, adolescents, and adults answered moral dilemmas and their justifications for their answers. The most famous of those dilemmas being the Heinz dilemma went like this. A man named Heinz, who lived in Europe, had a wife whom he loved very much. His wife was diagnosed with a rare type of cancer and did not have long to live. Luckily, there was a pharmacist who invented a drug called radium that could cure her. The pharmacist owned all rights to this medication and decided to sell it at a high markup in order to make a profit. While it cost only $200 to make, he sold it for 10 times that amount, $2,000. Heinz did not have enough money to pay the exorbitant price, so he tried fundraising to cover the costs. With time running out, he only managed to gather $1,000, which was not enough to buy the medication. Heinz begged the pharmacist to sell him at a reduced price, but the man refused. Desperate and running out of time, Heinz broke into the pharmacy after hours and stole the drug. Now try to answer the dilemma yourself, and think about why. Colbert realized that there were patterns of how the dilemma was answered, and these patterns came from the age of the people who were answering, and the explanations that they gave. To explain those patterns, Colbert divided morality into 3 levels: pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional, with each having 2 stages. The pre-conventional level having the stages of obedience and punishment, then individualism and exchange, where young children base their morality on the punishment that would be carried out on their actions, i.e., stealing is against the law and he go to prison for it, therefore it's bad. If a child's on the second stage of morality, they were thinking about what is in it for them, with morality being based off the reward and exchanges between people. Heinz thinks he's doing the right thing because he helped his wife, but the pharmacist wouldn't because he lost money. The conventional level of morality is where most adolescents and adults develop into, and is what they usually stay at. It is characterized by the stages of good interpersonal relationships and later maintaining social order. Stage 3 is where morality is based on relationships and how good a person will look to others. Someone at this stage would have their reasoning be, Heinz is a good person because he was trying to help someone he loves. In stage 4, where most adults land, people are trying to uphold social order. In this stage, laws are supreme. Thinking, if everyone did this, would this be right? Their answer to the Heinz dilemma would be that he's not right because stealing is illegal. Imagine if everyone found a reason and just stole things. The last level, the post-conventional level, is found among few adults and even fewer teens. The 5th stage, social contract and individual rights, is where people take their morality more abstractly. They realize that laws don't take into account Heinz's specific situation. People at this stage take problems to a grander level to think about whether or not things are good for the society as a whole. The final stage is a stage of universal principles, where one's morality is based on their personal values, with something being morally right based on a person's interpretation of abstract concepts that can't be clearly defined. Someone at this level won't have a morality Bible that they stick to, but rather they will have a strong sense of things like equality, justice, dignity, and respect. People at this stage realize that laws and general consensus can't define what is moral, as that is not what will always be right for everyone, and might hurt a minority. In terms of the Heinz dilemma, someone at this level would say Heinz is completely in the right, as objects and property can't have as much value as a human life. Okay, now why did I delve into such a long psychology lesson? You came here to see random internet guys' take on how funny internet man bad, not to learn. Well, this entire discussion brings us to the table the idea of different levels of morality, and as I read through the Twitter takes on the situation, I saw this time and time again. I saw a lot of people saying that what he did was wrong because what he did was illegal. But why does the law arbitrate morality on whether Carson is right or wrong in the situation? The law was written by a bunch of middle-aged men arguing in Congress. Since when do they dictate what is moral and what isn't? Yes, there is a certain validity to basing morality in law, as it is a reflection of the feelings of the majority of the voting population, to a certain extent. But at the same time, it's a flawed system that shouldn't be the basis of everyone's morality. Yes, what Heinz did was illegal, but the law could never possibly cover his case. In history, we saw time and time again how laws supported or did not stop immoral behavior. So why should they be the basis for morality now? For crying out loud, slavery was legal for centuries. So what is my take on the Carson situation? Well, if the discussion focused on how the power imbalance between the YouTuber and his audience can lead to abuse, and he was judged solely based on that, I would totally be up for it. Some say he was wrong in using his status for sexual favors. Even then, it's questionable because it undermines that even if drawn by power, Sam still decided herself to send nudes. There was no evidence that he directly used his power to coerce her into sending him nudes. Are famous people not allowed to enter relationships outside of their circle because they might have power over them? In this exact scenario, I don't see enough evidence to say that he abused his power directly. Yes, he is famous, and I'm not trying to blame the victim, but if you're gonna say that Sam did not have enough judgment to realize she was just drawn by his fame, then you can say the same about Carson. He did not have enough judgment to realize that what he did could be considered wrong. In short, Unless Carson directly and consciously used his fame to get nudes from Sam, I don't think he was wrong. If more evidence surfaced directly showing that he did that, then yes, he is wrong. When looking at the situation, we should consider if we're even being fair to him. If the situation happened between Tommy Innit, who's 17, and a 15-year-old fan, would people have the same issue with it? It would still be illegal, and the age gap would logically be more damning. And yet, I don't know if it would have the same outcry. Or what if it was an 18-year-old girl and a 20-year-old YouTuber? Would the power dynamics still be that much of a problem where the YouTuber deserves to be cancelled? Or should he just be more careful with the power he has over his fans? Oh my god, bro. 24-0 so far? Let's go. I think I held on to my ult too much there. Oh my god, what the fuck? He's gonna come here and stun. Nice. Oh my god, dude! Is this a fucking GM Genji? Oh my god, bro. I'm actually nuts.